11 days away from Election Day, and Democrats feel like they need a therapist.
Democrats, it's kind of a tie race, and they were lapsed into profound depression. And a depressed party is not a winning party. So anything that I can do to address that kind of depression, I'm glad to do it.
So if you're a Democrat and you're suffering from election anxiety, James Carville's offering his services. Hopefully not in that way, but he did say anything. For the first time ever, Trump is tied going into Election Day. He always goes in down. Let that sink in. It's the tightest race in a half a century, and behind the scenes, Democrats are worried she can't stretch herself across the finish line. Little she does, says, or tries seems to move the needle. They've been waiting for her to fully reveal herself to voters, but she hasn't. She's been a tease. At this point, Democrats are throwing their hands up in the air and saying, she is who she is. They're coming to grips with the fact that Kamala has reached her full potential. This version of Kamala is as good as it's ever going to get. After the CNN town hall, reality slapped Democrats in the face.
Her performance last night was the last straw for a lot of Democrats. No more. The more she does it, the better she'll get.
The get to know her phase, that's over. They've realized the country's not interested. Just ask Mel Gibson.
A lot of people I know what it'll be like if we let her in.
Yeah. Oh, really?
And that ain't good.
Yeah. Well,
miserable track record. Appalling track record. No policies to speak of.
Yeah. And the border, right?
And she's got the IQ of a fence post.
So it's not good. And Bill Clinton, not helping.
There is a sliver there that has to make up their mind. And to them, Kamala Harris just showed up. I mean, she was there as vice president. And what they think of her largely depends on what they think of President Biden. But she is extremely vulnerable, more vulnerable than she deserves to be.
Now, if Bubba keeps this up, Democrats are going to have to lock him up in the basement with Joe. But Slick Willie's right. She's vulnerable, and the far left smelling blood in the water. Progressives warn Harris must change her closing message as the election looms. The Bernie bros are asking Harris, can you stop campaigning with Liz Cheney? Liz Cheney. And maybe campaign with AOC instead? They're telling her, stop screaming about fascism and start talking about the bread and butter kitchen table issues that motivate working class Democrats.
Some Democrats are concerned that you've pivoted too far away from talking about the economy and really prioritizing that in these final days of the election, that you could end up losing some progressive voters and some working class voters because of that. What do you say to those people, especially ones who might be concerned that, doing a big closing argument speech at a place like the Ellipse, maybe leaning more into talking about the threat of Trump to democracy and not his threats that you see to the economy?
One of the things that I love about the American people is we can hold many thoughts at once.
That's deep. Kamala's base is fracturing on the eve of the election because she's not talking about wages, health care, and education. Things Democrats used to stand for before they got captured by the corporate class. Morning Joe keeps telling her to talk about Hitler, and she's following orders because that's what she's done her whole life. She doesn't realize she can give orders now. She doesn't have to just do what she's told. Bernie Sanders, who's won millions more primary votes than Kamala has ever won, is warning the Democratic Party, we're going to lose if we don't talk about the economy. But there's two problems. One, Kamala can't talk about the economy because she's the one who tanked it. And two, Kamala is afraid to be seen with Bernie. She was more liberal than Bernie in the Senate, but now she acts like they never met. That tells you how much of a hoax Harris's candidacy is. Democrats are now wondering who'd be more responsible for a Harris loss, Biden for dragging his feet or Harris. But there's plenty of blame to go around. Everyone's responsible.
This is the second time the Democratic Party has circumvented democracy and chose.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. Hillary Clinton was chosen, and she had Bruce Springsteen too. And what happened to her? And now we've chosen.
Kevin, Hillary Clinton won a primary. Okay, she won a primary. You may not.
Nobody
like
could compete with her, even Bernie Sanders.
She won a primary.
Okay.
First of all, that's the first
so
thing.
Did Kamala Harris win a primary?
Listen, we've talked about this before.
What's wrong about talking about it tonight after what you just saw?
Do you think that's really what matters to voters?
Right now.
How many Democrats wish?
Your whole shtick has
Hang
been,
on a second.
let's talk about what matters to voters. Do you really think voters care about the internecine primary process?
If you're a
of the Democratic
Democrat,
Party?
you sure as hell care today.
Kamala Harris is going to lose because Biden waited too long to step down. Are you serious? He didn't step down. He backed out with a gun to his head. The Democrats knew Biden was shot for years. They could have primaried him. You know, the way things have been done since our founding. They could have had an open primary after Joe got whacked. The truth is, Biden and Kamala were both probably going to lose. They're both responsible for the last 4 years. Nobody can point to the last 4 years and say they deserve to be reelected. Doesn't matter who you are. It's not about Biden and Harris. It's about what they did. And now the Democrats are all in denial and demand every celebrity in America pop up on stage and sprinkle Kamala with as much Hollywood magic as possible and just close their eyes and hope their dreams come true. Tonight, we're hearing Kamala's going to be on stage with Beyonce. But the media has seen this before.
With 11 days to go, I got to tell you, to this reporter, it feels a little familiar because I remember these scenes from 2016 when Hillary Clinton rallied in Philadelphia with Barack Obama and Bruce Springsteen. That event was basically a victory rally that was held before all the votes were cast. And we all know how it turned out.
You can't fuel a campaign with pop stars. Campaigns are about connecting with people who have real problems. These real moments between the politician and the people, that's what makes or breaks a campaign. You can see one connects and the other doesn't.
All right, let's go.
Bring it to the White House.
It's about priorities, and the people see that. Before Trump taped the Joe Rogan podcast, he was visiting angel moms whose offspring were murdered by Biden migrants.
Today, Kamala is here in Texas to rub shoulders with woke celebrities. Isn't that exciting? But she's not going to meet with any of the victims of migrant crime while she's here. We have many of them right here, the families, we have many of them. And they're incredible people, what they've gone through, the hell that they've gone through, and will continue to go through, unfortunately. She'll not speak to the grieving mothers from whom she has stolen the brightest light in their lives.
Celebrity endorsements are fine. Beyonce has every right to be in Texas with the borders are, but that's all Harris has. She doesn't have the people. She's not tackling our problems. You got to get your hands dirty if you want to be president. It's not an easy job. You can't worry about what everybody's saying about you. You can't hide from questions. You got to aim for the problem, sell the solution, and work your butt off. And if you see what's going to happen and maybe you're depressed about it, call Carville, and he'll do anything to cheer you up. And I mean anything. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.
And tonight, now listen to this. Just 1 in 4 Americans say that the country is headed in the right direction under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. But Kamala doesn't have a plan to turn the country around. Listen to the word salads. Instead, she's serving up a hot, steaming pile of Hitler, Nazi, fascism comparison, and when all else fails, calling Donald Trump a racist. Her and her surrogates are the ones responsible for this final closing argument as we now, are 11 days away from Election Day officially, although Election Day is every day, the polls are open. Take a listen.
Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
This guy's tendencies towards leaning towards dictatorship is un-American.
It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans.
When you said we do agree, President Biden believes that Donald Trump is a fascist. I mean, yes.
I actually wish they would speak that harshly to the #1 state sponsor of terror and the mullahs in Iran, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Now, of course, Hillary Clinton, she also had to chime in, still bitter about her humiliating loss in 2016. She's now comparing Donald Trump and his supporters to Nazis, all on Kamala's behalf because of the upcoming Trump rally at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Take a listen.
One other thing that you'll see next week, Caitlin, is Trump actually reenacting the Madison Square Garden rally in 1939. I write about this in my book. President Franklin Roosevelt was appalled that neo-Nazis, fascists in America were lining up to essentially pledge their support for the kind of government that they were seeing in Germany. It may be a leap for some people, and a lot of others may think, I don't want to go there. I don't want to say that. But please open your eyes to the danger that this man poses to our country.
There is no president in the modern era that has been as good a friend and close an ally to Israel as Donald J. Trump. Many presidents had promised to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Donald Trump got it done. Donald Trump recognized Israel's right to the Golan Heights and the West Bank. And Israel's never had a better friend in the White House. This kind of dishonest political rhetoric, it is disgraceful, it is repulsive, and frankly, it is dangerous. Now, there are many deranged people, unfortunately, in our country that will listen to her words and to Carville's words and to Kamala's words and Walz's words, and they hear these words. Are they going to be inspired by them? This is not new. Now, take a look at your screen. Democrats, they have been comparing Republicans to Nazis for decades. They compared Mitt Romney to Hitler, somebody they say they love now. They did the same thing to John McCain, who they used to love until he ran. They didn't love him, then they loved him again. They did it to George W. Bush. They did it to George H.W. Bush. You know, one Democrat accused Ronald Reagan of trying to replace the Bill of Rights with Mein Kampf. Gerald Ford, Richard Nixon, Barry Goldwater in 1964, all compared numerous times to Adolf Hitler. And that is only the tip of the iceberg. Everyone from Nikki Haley to Governor Ron DeSantis to Kamala's new friend Dick Cheney have all been compared to Nazis by Democrats. But this time, it's a lot different. Now, two people have already tried to assassinate Donald Trump during this election cycle. A Trump supporter was murdered. Others were seriously wounded. And yet top Democrats, they are ramping up out of pure panic and a desire for political power their rhetoric, with Kamala calling Trump a fascist, as many of her surrogates are doing the same. Her surrogates comparing him to Hitler, and her supporters, calling him Nazi. Right now, there are delusional people that are out there that are hearing these words. We have foreign actors that we know about in this country, including Iranian assassination squads, who are targeting Donald Trump, targeting his family, targeting his campaign team. They know all of this. They get security briefings, and they obviously do not care. This insane, never-ending, absolutely dangerous rhetoric. They talk about Donald Trump's rhetoric. What about their rhetoric? It has the potential to put Donald Trump, his family, his supporters, his campaign staff, everybody around him, their lives at risk. And Kamala, it needs to stop. and it needs to stop immediately. And you need to lead the way, and you need to stop calling him a fascist. And Hillary Clinton, well, you have no shame, but you should be ashamed of yourself, as well as everybody else that is out there using these terms. Repulsive, reckless, dangerous, beyond irresponsible. In a rare move, Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, or Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, released a joint letter demanding that Harris, quote, end the dangerous rhetoric. This letter continues, quote, we call on Vice President Harris to take these threats seriously, stop escalating the threat environment, help ensure that President Trump has the necessary resources, they've been denied many times, to be protected from those threats. But if Kamala needs even more evidence that her vile remarks have crossed the line, well, maybe she should listen to an actual survivor of the Holocaust. In this case, a 94-year-old man who was 9 years old when taken by the Nazis, whose parents were murdered under Adolf Hitler in Nazi Germany. Listen.
I know more about Hitler than Kamala will ever know in 1,000 lifetimes. For her to accuse President Trump of being like Hitler is the worst thing I've ever heard in my 75 years living in the United States.
What does Kamala Harris have to say for herself? What about her supporters? By the way, weren't they supposed to be running a joyful campaign? Well, tonight there is good news from all of this. This election, once again, has exposed the radicalism, extremism, the true colors of this modern Democratic Party for all to see. They don't care about democracy. They don't care about the quality of life here in America, or maybe they'd be talking about that every day, or even global peace. They want to lecture Israel how to fight the people that are dedicated to their destruction that killed the equivalent of 40,000 Americans in a single day. They only care about power, and they'll shred the so-called norms in any way in a heartbeat as they lecture the rest of the country about civility, like they lecture the country about the dangers of fossil fuels while they themselves are flying around the world in private jets with a massive carbon footprint. Now, they're going to toss out millions of primary votes, install a different candidate. Oh, threat to democracy? Really? They're going to get rid of the filibuster, pack the courts. They'll try to throw their chief political rivals in jail. We've watched the weaponization of the DOJ. We've watched lawfare unfold. We have covered this now for the last number of years. They will pressure big tech to censor American citizens while disseminating their own foreign disinformation. And the state-run media mob will run wild with it. They'll investigate angry parents at school board meetings as possible domestic terrorists while letting members of ISIS and terrorists. We have known terrorists in this country because of the Harris-Biden unvetted open borders we have. And then to top all of this off, well, they'll just compare their political opponents to evil Nazis and fascists and call them racist while claiming to be virtuous and kind and accepting. America is a divided country, but calling somebody evil like that, a Nazi, a fascist, comparing them to Stalin, Mussolini, Hitler, isn't going to help any American's life in any way, shape, manner, or form. Their big problem is they cannot run on their failed record. This is their big closing argument. Nazi, fascist, racist, sexist, misogynist, homophobe, xenophobe, Islamophobe, transphobe. They want dirty air and water. They want to kill off grandma and grandpa's Social Security and Medicare. Project 2025, democracy in peril. Sadly for the Harris campaign, this election isn't about making America a better place. It's about them holding on to power. Donald Trump's closing argument, they broke it. Donald Trump will fix it. And asking every American, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? More Hannity straight ahead.
It's bothering me, this shirt. Okay, sorry. It's Leftovers, where I read the jokes we didn't use this week, and as always, it's my first time reading them, so if they suck, we'll dress Joe Mackey as a nanny and send him to Doug Emhoff. An article in The Atlantic said Donald Trump was speaking like Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini. Well, at least he's speaking German, Russian, and Italian, which is a stark contrast with Kamala, who struggles with English. According to the Daily Signal, Kamala Harris was admitted to law school through a program for students with educational disadvantages, economic hardship, or disability. All right, both of her parents were professors, which makes the educational disadvantage and the economic hardship sound implausible. So that leaves disability. I'll give her that. Nearly 100 members of Britain's left-wing Labour Party plan to come to the States to campaign for Kamala. Democrats taking them in as house guests have been instructed to leave out glasses of water for their teeth. Hall of Fame boxer Tommy Hitman Hearns joined Donald Trump on stage at a rally in Detroit. How ironic, Hearns fought 67 times, yet it's Kamala's fans with the brain damage. Yeah, low blow. In an NBC interview, Kamala claims Joe Biden was capable in every way, adding, "You should have seen him bob and weave when Pelosi was stabbing him." When asked why she's performing badly with men, Kamala replied, "Come to my events and you'll see there are men at those events," leaving out that they were all waiting in line to use the ladies' room. As Subway hero Daniel Penny's trial begins, his lawyer said he's going to try to put jurors in that train car. And for added realism, he will ask the bailiff to pee on them. 'Cause that's what happens on the subway, people. Bill Clinton called Arizona Senate candidate Carrie Lake physically attractive. She'll look even better in her casket, says one woman. A small Ohio town has seen its population nearly double after 3,000 migrants were dumped there by the Biden administration. On the upside, they've seen their stray pet population cut in half.
Upside.
I can't believe he said that. An AI camera mounted in a toilet will take photographs of people's bowel movements to look for health problems. So it's illegal when I do it. Oh, but it's fine if it's a robot. Ursa Hersey, daughter of Ilhan Omar, has been receiving reparations from her white friends, even though she's not descended from slaves. In a related story, Ilhan's brother never returned the wedding gifts he received when he married his sister. Just kidding. Not really. Legendary pop star Cher gave a heartfelt speech when she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, saying, "I just wish my original face could have been here." She is the first inductee to have more artificial parts than the trophy, so good on her. Meanwhile, fellow inductee Ozzy Osbourne was the first acceptance speech to be translated from English to English. One of World War II's last Navajo code talkers has died at the age of 107. His eulogy will be given by one of his surviving comrades. Never fails. Nicole Kidman had to pause during her new movie's sex scenes because she was exhausted from faking orgasms. "You get used to it," said one woman.
That should have made the show.
Yes, yes. According to a new poll, the average American consumes 80 pounds of sugar every year. Although this guy really threw off the curve. All right. Enough. So according to Bob Woodward's new book, War, Joe Biden was disturbingly frail and confused at campaign fundraisers over a year before his debate debacle. I know. That's like finding out Joy Behar has a weakness for kielbasa. Of course, it's news now because Woodward has a book to sell. I mean, seriously, what would be the upside of letting the free world know they're being led by a corpse? In the book, Woodward quotes a donor as saying that during one fundraiser in June 2023, Biden could not wait to sit down and only took 2 prearranged questions. According to another attendee, he was like your 87-year-old senile grandfather. Yeah, I wish. At a New York event the following month, another observer says, quote, he never completed a sentence. He would start to talk about something, jump somewhere else. He told the same story 3 times in exactly the same way, and it meandered so much. Frankly, my impression was there were times it was though we didn't exist. He was just rambling and talking as to what came into his head. Well, that sounds familiar. But of course, up until the debate disaster, the White House and the media all insisted Biden was better than ever. Sharpest attack, running rings around staffers 1/3 his age. Rumor had it he even beat Randy Weingarten's record for the deadlift. Yet we could see with our own eyes that it was bull. And the whole time, Woodward knew, and he didn't tell us because he wanted to sell a lousy book. Usually they have journalist standards that low, you have to work here. But imagine what would have happened if Woodward had reported on this 16 months ago. Imagine if the Dems had been forced to rip off the Band-Aid and admit the old man was finished. Maybe the DNC would have found a better candidate altogether. Like this. Or this. Or this. It would have been painful for them, but not nearly as painful as the past 3 months. But remember, not only did Kamala Harris help engineer Biden's removal from the ticket, she still left him in place as part of the cover-up. She didn't introduce the 25th Amendment. So you not only had an unelected awful candidate installed onto the ticket, you had a decrepit, incapable leader allowed to stay and run the most vital country in the world, fraught with tenuous relationships with other superpowers. Thanks, Bob. This raises another question. If the 25th Amendment was threatened but not invoked, why? Well, forget Joe. It would have been a disaster for Kamala. Given the problems with Russia, China, the Middle East, they couldn't let the country see her as president for 6 remaining months. But Woodward kept Biden's decline under wraps, which led to the coup, installing Kamala without a primary. And once you betray Americans in the most basic regard, it becomes that much easier to betray them in everything else. So if you're a Dem and you want to get mad at somebody, it's not Trump. It's Woodward and the rest of the media who covered for this charade. Bob could have saved you from all of this horrible fate, Dems, but that wouldn't have made the bestseller list.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.